My daughter was only 10 years old, standing quietly in the hallway of our apartment building with her backpack on, waiting for me to lock the door. She didn't say a word, didn't bother anyone. She just hummed softly and traced her fingers along the wall. Then Karen appeared. The HOA president, in her bright red jacket and angry eyes, stormed down the hallway like she owned it. "What do you think you're doing?" she yelled. "Children aren't allowed to touch the walls. You're ruining the paint." My daughter jumped, startled. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean..." But Karen didn't let her finish. She grabbed my daughter by the shoulder and shoved her hard against the wall, her backpack slamming first, making her cry out in fear. "That'll teach you to follow the rules," Karen snapped. My daughter stood frozen, tears rolling down her cheeks, shaking from the shock. Karen smirked and crossed her arms. "She needs discipline. If you parents won't do it, I will." She had no idea. The little girl she had just shoved into a wall, the child she thought she could bully, belonged to a police chief. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me where you are watching from, and please hit subscribe for more stories where the good guys always win. My 10-year-old daughter was only tying her shoes in the hallway of our apartment building, humming softly and smiling like any kid her age. Her little backpack rested beside her feet, and the morning sun from the window made her brown hair glow warm and soft. She wasn't blocking anyone. She wasn't breaking a rule. She wasn't doing anything wrong. Then Karen arrived. Karen, our furious HOA president in her bright red blazer, stomped down the hallway like she was marching into battle. Her heels clacked sharply, echoing off the walls. She carried her rulebook binder under her arm like it was a weapon, and she already looked angry before she even reached my daughter. "You kids never follow the building rules," she shouted, pointing sharply. "Get out of my way! Hallways are for walking, not playing!" My daughter looked up, startled. I'm just tying my shoes. I'm sorry." But Karen didn't listen. Karen never listened. She stormed right up to her, grabbed my daughter by the arm, and with one furious jerk, she slammed her against the wall. The sound echoed through the hallway, a dull, painful thud as her small body hit the plaster. My daughter gasped, eyes going wide. Her backpack slipped from her shoulder and hit the floor with a soft thump. Tears immediately filled her eyes. "Ow, I wasn't doing anything," she whispered, her voice shaking. Karen stood over her, arms crossed, proud of what she had done. "That's what happens when kids don't obey," Karen barked. "You're always in the way. You take up space. You clutter the hall. You don't listen." My daughter pressed her small hand to her shoulder, wincing from the pain. Her bottom lip trembled as she tried to hold back tears. I just needed to tie my shoes," she whispered. "Don't talk back to me," Karen snapped. A neighbor opening their door froze mid-step. Another neighbor peeked over the stair railing, eyes wide. Everyone saw it, everyone heard it, but no one moved, no one spoke. They all knew Karen. They all feared Karen. My daughter wiped at her tears, trying to be brave, but her voice came out in a tiny whisper. "You scared me." Karen scoffed loudly. "Oh, please. Maybe next time you won't break the rules." My daughter's eyes fell to the floor, her shoulder still pressed against the wall where she'd been slammed. And that's when I turned the corner. I had just stepped out of our apartment, heading to walk my daughter to school. I expected to find her tying her shoes, smiling like always. Instead, I saw her pressed against the wall, crying quietly, and Karen standing over her like a monster guarding a treasure. Everything in my body froze for one single heartbeat. Then the fire hit me. Slow, cold, deep. I walked down the hallway with steady footsteps that echoed louder and louder. Karen didn't notice me at first. She was too busy lecturing a crying child. "You know what? Maybe I should fine your parents, or better yet, ban you from sitting in the hall at all. That'll teach you people to respect authority." My daughter looked up and saw me. "Dad," she whispered, eyes filling with relief and fear at the same time. She ran to me, clutching my hand with her trembling fingers. She hurt my shoulder. Karen finally turned. She blinked. Her fake smile twitched onto her face. "Oh, hello, you need to control your child." She was blocking the hallway again. I looked at my daughter's shoulder. A faint, red mark was already forming. I raised my eyes slowly to Karen. "Did you touch my daughter?" I asked quietly. Karen scoffed. "I had to. She wouldn't move. Kids like her need discipline. She needs to learn to listen. I stepped forward. Did you slam her into the wall? Karen put a hand on her hip, annoyed. Oh, stop being dramatic. I just pushed her a little. If she doesn't want to get hurt, she should follow the HOA rules. The neighbors gasped. One covered her mouth, shaking her head. Another whispered, she just confessed. Karen still didn't notice. She kept talking. And let me tell you something. I'm the HOA president. I have every right to enforce hallway rules. If you don't like it, take it up with the board. I'm not scared of you. She glared up at me, but Karen had no idea. None at all. The girl she just slammed into the wall was the police chief's daughter, and I wasn't just a father walking down the hallway. I was a father with a badge, a father with authority, a father who just saw someone hurt his child. Karen crossed her arms smugly. What are you going to do about it? I stepped forward, close enough for her to finally see the badge clipped on my belt. Karen froze. Her smug grin vanished. Her face paled. Her eyes dropped to the gold shield, widening with horror. I'm the police chief, I said quietly. Karen's mouth fell open. Her confidence shattered instantly. Oh, I didn't realize, she stuttered. You shouldn't need to realize, I said. You don't put your hands on anyone's child. Karen swallowed hard. Her voice turned to a whisper. I didn't mean I didn't know, but it was too late. Way too late. Because the moment she slammed my daughter into that hallway wall, she crossed a line she could never uncross, and she was about to learn exactly what that meant. My daughter slid down the wall, her small body trembling as she held her shoulder. Tears streamed down her cheeks in hot, silent rivers. Her breathing came out in sharp little gasps, the kind kids make when they're trying not to cry but the pain is too much. Daddy, she whispered, voice cracking. She hurt me. She pushed me. Hearing those words shattered something in me. I knelt down instantly and scooped her gently into my arms, checking her shoulder, her hands, her breathing. She winced when I touched the bruise forming beneath her shirt, but she nodded when I asked if she could move her fingers. Physically, she would be okay. Emotionally, she was terrified. Her head tucked into my chest like she was trying to hide from the world. I held her tighter, my jaw clenching so hard it hurt. Behind us, Karen stood with her arms crossed, her bright red HOA blazer sharp and loud against the dull beige apartment hallway. She didn't look guilty. She didn't look apologetic. She looked proud. Oh, please, she snapped, throwing one hand in the air. She's being dramatic. Kids cry over anything. She bumped a wall. She'll get over it. I stared at her, stunned. You slammed her into that wall. Karen rolled her eyes so hard it was almost a performance. She was in the middle of the hallway, she said, pointing dramatically to the very spot my daughter had been standing. This area must be kept clear. HOA Rule 2B, no obstacles, no clutter, no children wandering around blocking foot traffic. She wasn't blocking anything, I said through gritted teeth. She was tying her shoe. Karen shrugged. Same thing. A door farther down the hallway opened, and a neighbor poked their head out. Their eyes widened at the sight of my crying daughter. What happened? They asked. Karen responded instantly. Nothing happened. She's being dramatic because she was breaking the rules, and I corrected her. Corrected her? The neighbor repeated, disgusted. She's a child. You shoved her. Karen lifted her chin. It's called enforcement. If parents won't teach their kids, the HOA must. I stood up slowly, holding my daughter close as more neighbors stepped into the hallway, drawn by the noise. Drawn by my daughter's cry, one pointed at Karen. You pushed her. We heard the thud. Another neighbor stepped forward, arms crossed. Karen, that's assault. Karen barked out a laugh. Oh, please. She walked into the wall. Kids do that all the time. You all baby your children way too much. My daughter whimpered and buried her face deeper into my shirt. My wife rushed into the hallway then, eyes wide with panic. What happened? She gasped, running to us. My daughter tried to answer, but her voice cracked. Mommy. She pushed me. My wife's face turned pale. She held our daughter's cheek with gentle hands, whispering soothingly. Then she stood and glared at Karen. What is wrong with you? She's 8. You don't put your hands on someone else's child. Karen smiled like this was all beneath her. If she wasn't breaking the rules, my hands wouldn't need to be anywhere near her. My wife stepped forward, furious. You don't touch anyone's child. Ever. Karen flicked her hand dismissively. Oh, save the drama. She's fine. She just wants attention. Neighbors gasped. One whispered, She's unbelievable. Another muttered, She's getting worse. Karen snapped at them. Don't act like you're saints. Half of you break HOA rules every week. A tenant from upstairs shouted, Karen, she's crying. You heard her. Karen rolled her eyes again. Cry, cry, cry. That's all kids do. Look, if she learned her lesson, then good. Hallways are not for playing. She wasn't playing. My daughter cried softly. She peeked over my shoulder, her little voice trembling. I was just tying my shoe. Karen threw her arms up. Same thing, same clutter, same problem. My wife stepped forward again, but I held her back gently, not because she was wrong, but because the situation was building and I did not need her anywhere near Karen if this got uglier. Neighbors moved closer, forming a half circle around us. The hallway, normally silent and empty, felt alive, charged, full of anger and disbelief. Karen's confidence faltered for a split second, just a flicker, but then she stood taller again, clinging to her imaginary authority. You all need to calm down, she said sharply. I am the HOA president. I am allowed to enforce rules. And if kids don't follow them, you think slamming a child into a wall is enforcement? I asked. Karen opened her mouth, but no words came out. Instead, she jabbed her finger at me. You're overreacting because she's your daughter. If you didn't want problems, teach her to stay out of the way. Neighbors gasped again. One woman said loudly, You're heartless. Karen pivoted to her. And you're late paying your HOA fees. It's the first of the month, Karen. The woman snapped. Karen pointed dramatically at someone else. And your dog peed on my lawn last week, another tenant shouted. You screamed at my son for dropping a crayon, Karen responded. Crayon stain. The hallway erupted with voices, not screaming, but a steady rising wave of people finally speaking up. You fined me for planting flowers. You yelled at my grandmother for sitting outside. You tried to ban Halloween decorations. You made my kids cry. You called the cops on a lemonade stand. Karen spun in circles, overwhelmed, trying to shout everyone down. Stop. All of you stop talking at once. I'm doing my job. This neighborhood needs discipline. No, I said, stepping forward. You need help. She turned to me sharply. What did you say? You heard me, I said. You think you're enforcing rules, but you're hurting people. You hurt my daughter. Karen's voice cracked. She was in the way. There's no excuse for touching her, I said, louder now. Then, as if the universe wanted to end this moment, my jacket shifted slightly as I adjusted my daughter on my shoulder, and Karen finally saw the badge clipped to my belt. Her face changed instantly. Her angry expression collapsed. Her lips parted. Her eyes widened. Her breath caught. You, she whispered. You're one of them? I took one slow step toward her. I'm more than that, I said quietly. Karen swallowed hard. I don't understand. I'm a police chief, I said. Gasps spread instantly. Karen looked like the ground had just disappeared beneath her. Her hands trembled. Her voice slipped into panic. I didn't know. If I had known she was your daughter, I never would have. You shouldn't need to know, I interrupted. You should treat all children with care, respect, basic humanity. Karen stumbled back, hitting the wall she shoved my daughter into minutes earlier. Her voice quivered. I didn't mean for it to go this far, but it already had, and she knew it. The hallway was silent except for my daughter's soft sniffling. Karen stood there alone, shaking, realizing for the first time that she wasn't in control, not anymore. The moment Karen slapped her hands onto her hips and said, I did nothing wrong, a wave of disbelief moved through the hallway like a sudden gust of wind. She stood there in her bright red HOA jacket, acting like she hadn't just slammed my 10-year-old daughter into the hallway wall so hard she fell. My daughter sat on the floor beside me, knees pulled to her chest, her face shaking with fear and confusion. She wasn't injured, but she was terrified, the kind of fear no parent ever forgets. My wife knelt beside her, brushing hair out of her face, whispering, You're okay, sweetheart. We're here. We're with you. But Karen didn't feel even a flicker of guilt. Instead, she pointed at my daughter and snapped, "She was blocking the walkway. You people let your kids run wild like animals." She was tying her. "Shoo," my wife said sharply. She wasn't running. She wasn't playing. She wasn't even standing up. Karen rolled her eyes so hard it looked painful. "That's not my problem. Rules are rules. No sitting in hallways, no dropping items, no clutter, no blocking access. I had to do something." "You shoved a child into a wall," I said. Karen smirked. "Oh, please." I nudged her. "She fell because she's dramatic." My daughter whimpered quietly. That small sound made something shift behind the apartment doors. One door cracked open, then another, then 5. Neighbors who had been too afraid to speak out before were suddenly stepping into the hallway, drawn by the noise, the shouting, the injustice. Mrs. Patel, who lived across from us, pointed her finger at Karen and yelled, "You did this last week! You yelled at my grandson for dropping a pencil on the floor." Karen's face twitched. "That was a violation. Trash on the ground." A man stepped out from the corner apartment and crossed his arms. "You fined me $50 because my daughter's bike was leaning on the wall." "That's the rule," Karen shrieked. "Bikes aren't decor." Another neighbor chimed in. "You banned chalk drawings because you called them graffiti. They're just flowers drawn by kids." Karen stomped her foot. "I did IT for the community. I am the HOA." But nobody backed up. Nobody agreed. Nobody defended her this time. In fact, quite the opposite. A woman with a stroller glared at her. "You hurt a child today, a 10-year-old. A tall man beside her added, "You crossed a line, Karen. This isn't rule enforcement. This is aggression." "She should be reported," someone muttered. "She's dangerous," said another. You could see the moment the shift happened. Karen realized she had lost them. Every single neighbor in the building, people she had scolded, fined, threatened, and bullied, now stood against her. The hallway felt heavier, charged, like static right before lightning strikes. Karen stepped back, stunned anyone would dare challenge her. "Everyone calm down," she screeched. "She was blocking the hallway. I had to move her. It was a safety issue." "She was tying her shoe," I said again. "And you threw her into the wall." Karen threw her hands up dramatically. "Oh, you're all ridiculous. This is why I have to make rules. Because you people don't understand order." "That's not order," someone replied. "That's abuse." Karen's eyes widened, shocked. "Abuse? Me? I am the only thing keeping this building functioning. If you don't like how I run things..." She paused dramatically. "Move out!" Gasps spread through the crowd. "You can't tell people to move out," a neighbor snapped. "You don't own this building." But Karen didn't hear them anymore. She was spiraling, losing control. You could see it. Her breathing quickening, her hands shaking, her face turning red. She jabbed her finger toward the circle of neighbors. "You people are ungrateful. I enforce rules for you, for your children, for your safety. This building would be a disaster without me." Her voice cracked slightly at the end, a sign she was starting to panic. And then, she finally noticed something. My jacket had shifted as I knelt beside my daughter, just enough for the badge clipped at my belt to show. Karen stared. Then she blinked. Her mouth opened a centimeter. She stared again, longer this time, as if hoping the badge would magically turn into a piece of plastic. But it didn't. Her voice came out in a tiny whisper. You're police?" I stood slowly, letting her see the badge clearly, letting every neighbor witness the moment she understood exactly who she had assaulted. I kept my voice calm, steady, but with the power of a storm behind it. "I'm the police chief." Karen's jaw dropped. For the first time since she'd taken the HOA position, she looked genuinely afraid. Her eyes darted to my daughter, then back to me, then to the crowd staring at her like she was a stranger they never truly knew. She tried to speak, but no words came out. Her lips trembled silently, her breathing shaky, her hands suddenly weak at her sides, and the neighbors watched, the hallway buzzing with shock and satisfaction. Because the woman who believed she controlled everything, the woman who believed she could shove, scream, and bully without consequences, the woman who believed she could push a child into a wall, had just discovered she shoved the police chief's daughter. And in that single moment, Karen finally realized she was no longer the one in charge. Karen backed away so fast she nearly tripped over her own shoes, slamming her back into the opposite hallway wall. The confidence she had worn like armor only minutes earlier was gone. Her chest rose and fell quickly, her breath sharp, uneven, panicked. This isn't fair, she cried, waving her arms as if trying to erase what she'd done. I didn't know she was your daughter. I took a step forward, keeping my voice calm but unshakably firm. You shouldn't need to know, I said. You don't lay hands on any child, ever. Karen shook her head so violently her hair whipped across her face. No, you're twisting everything, she yelled. It wasn't like that. She was blocking the walkway. I just moved her. That hallway needs to stay clear. It's an HOA rule. My daughter, still sitting on the floor where she had slid down after being shoved, whimpered softly. Her small voice cracked as she tried to speak. She pushed me hard. Karen pointed at her in a panic, her voice rising in a desperate shriek. She's exaggerating. Kids exaggerate all the time. She's lying. I barely touched her. A neighbor from the next apartment, S, stepped forward. No, we saw you, he said, anger tightening his jaw. You slammed her into the wall, Karen. Karen's face twitched. She pressed herself flatter against the wall, shaking her head faster. Stop saying that. I didn't slam anyone. I was enforcing HOA walkway safety. There are rules. Another neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, crossed her arms firmly. You're not fit to run anything, she said. You've bullied everyone in this building for years. Today you went too far. Karen covered her ears and shouted, Stop! All of you stop! You're ganging up on me. But nobody was ganging up on her. They were telling the truth. My daughter tried to stand, her hand gripping the wall for balance. I rushed toward her immediately. Easy, I said gently, touching her shoulder. You okay? She nodded weakly, but her eyes were full of fear. She leaned against me, trusting me completely. Karen's voice shook as she pointed at me. You can't take her side. You don't know what happened. She was in the way, blocking the hallway like she owns it. I slowly turned toward Karen. She's 8 years old, I said quietly. She was carrying her backpack home from school. Karen scoffed loudly, a bitter, defensive sound. And? She still shouldn't be blocking my walkway. Mrs. Patel stepped forward, her voice sharp as a knife. It's not your walkway. It belongs to everyone. Karen stomped her foot. No, I'm the HOA president. That means I decide how everything works. If something is out of order, I fix it. If someone breaks the rules, I enforce them, the neighbors murmured angrily. Someone whispered loudly, She thinks she's running a military base. I locked eyes with Karen. You don't touch kids, I repeated, and you definitely don't shove them into walls. Karen's face flushed red. You're acting like I committed a crime, she screamed. Silence fell across the hallway. Everyone looked. At me. Everyone knew my job. Karen swallowed hard. I didn't mean it, she said quickly. It just happened fast. She startled me. You yelled at her first, a neighbor reminded her. I heard you. You called her useless and told her to move faster. Karen clenched her fists and shouted, She was in my way. My daughter flinched at Karen's volume. I pulled her slightly behind me, shielding her body with mine. Karen's eyes darted around, wild and frantic. I didn't slam her. I didn't do anything wrong. She shrieked. You're all twisting this to make me look bad. You made yourself look bad, someone said. Karen pressed both palms against her temples. No, this is getting out of control. I didn't sign up for this. I signed up to make the neighborhood better. I stepped closer. By hurting children? I asked. Karen looked horrified at the accusation. No, that's not what I meant. I care about this community. I care. From behind us, my daughter whispered. She was yelling at me before she pushed me. The neighbors glared. Karen shook her head so fast she nearly fell. She's lying. She's twisting what happened. Kids do that. They exaggerate everything. But no one believed her anymore. Her voice cracked, losing its strength. Please listen. I didn't know she was your daughter, she said, looking directly at me with watery eyes. That wouldn't have changed anything. I replied, You don't get to shove anyone. Karen's shoulders slumped. Her chest heaved. Her eyes darted toward the entrance of the building, and then she heard it. Sirens. The faint wail growing louder, moving closer to our street. Karen's entire body froze. No. she whispered. They're not coming for me. Are they? Everyone stared at her. Even without answering, she knew. Her face drained white, her knees trembled, her t-shirt clung to her from sudden sweat. For years, she used her HOA position to intimidate families, to bark orders, to bully and control. And now the sound of real authority, real consequences, was coming straight for her. Karen pressed her back harder against the wall. "This isn't fair," she sobbed. "I was doing my job." But the hallway that had always feared her was finally standing up to her, and Karen realized far too late that she was no longer in control. The elevator doors slid open with a soft ding, but the sound hit the hallway like a thunderclap. 2 uniformed officers stepped out, officers who worked under me, officers who recognized my voice when the neighbor called and said, "The chief needs backup." Their eyes widened when they saw my daughter crying, my wife holding her protectively, and Karen standing several feet away with her hands balled into fists and her face twisted in fear and outrage. Officer Daniels spoke first. "Chief, what's going on here? I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I simply pointed at Karen." "She assaulted my daughter," I said, the words steady and cold. Karen exploded instantly. No, I didn't. They're lying. I'm the HOA president. I was enforcing rules. That little brat was blocking the walkway. I barely touched her." My daughter cried harder at that, the word brat cutting through her like another shove. My wife held her close, rubbing her back, whispering, "You're okay, sweetie. Mommy's right here." But even she couldn't keep her voice from trembling. The officers exchanged a look, the kind of look that said, "This is serious." Officer Ruiz stepped forward calmly. "Ma'am, please step aside so we can talk." Karen didn't move. Instead, she pressed her back against the wall, palms flat like she was ready to claw her way through the paint if she had to. "You can't arrest me," she screamed. "I'm important. I run this building. I manage everything. If anyone should be in trouble, it's them for not following rules." Officer Daniels kept his voice calm. "Ma'am, nobody is being arrested right now. We just need you to step aside so we can ask some questions." Karen shook her head violently, her hair whipping around her face. "No, this is harassment. This is all because he's some big-shot cop and thinks he can do whatever he wants. I didn't do anything wrong." "That's not true," a neighbor said from behind me. Everyone turned. Mrs. Lacey, usually soft-spoken and nervous around confrontation, stepped into view. She looked shaken but determined. "I saw the whole thing," she said. She grabbed the little girl's shoulders and shoved her into the wall. Hard. Then she yelled at her. Karen pointed aggressively at Mrs. Lacey. "You're lying." But another neighbor stepped forward. "I saw it too." Then another, "She's always been like this." And another, "She scares kids all the time." Karen's face twisted into fury. "Stop IT. All of you stop IT. You're ganging up on me. This isn't fair." Officer Ruiz held out a hand. "Karen, you need to calm down." "Don't tell me to calm down," she screamed, voice echoing down the hallway. "I did nothing wrong. Nothing." My daughter flinched at the noise and buried her face into her mother's neck. That tiny movement, that trembling, made something inside me harden like stone. I spoke again, voice soft but sharp. "You put your hands on my daughter. That's not enforcing rules. That's assault." Karen froze. Officer Daniels slowly reached toward her wrists. "Ma'am, we're going to have to detain you for questioning." Karen gasped like she'd been stabbed. "No, you can't do that. I'm the HOA president. I have authority. I have power." Ruiz shook his head gently. "Your position doesn't give you the right to hurt anyone." Karen backed up again, forgetting there was no more. Hallway behind her. She slammed into the wall, her hands scraping at it as if trying to climb upward. No, I am not going anywhere with you. This is wrong. They deserve punishment, not me. I was helping the community." Daniels took her arm. "Ma'am," Karen screamed, loud, desperate, wild. "Let go of me. You can't do this. I'm important. I'm important." Her voice cracked on the last word. The officers handled her gently but firmly, guiding her toward the open elevator. Her legs shook so badly she nearly collapsed twice. Each time the officers kept her steady. She looked over her shoulder at me, her face streaked with panic. You're ruining everything, she shouted. You'll regret this. You all will. But her threats had no power anymore. The building, the neighbors, the officers, my family, everyone saw Karen for what she truly was, a bully finally facing consequences. The officers guided her into the elevator. Her screams echoed down the shaft long after the doors closed. No, don't take me. I'm the HOA president. I'm in charge. Ding. Silence. Beautiful, peaceful silence filled the hallway for the first time that day. My daughter sniffled, wiping her eyes on her sleeve. My wife held her close, kissing her forehead. It's over, she whispered. I nodded. It is. Neighbors slowly approached, offering gentle smiles and supportive words. She's safe now. She won't hurt anyone again. We're glad you are here, Chief. But I looked down at my daughter, small, frightened, and brave, and I knew something deeper. Karen's reign of fear had ended. My daughter finally had peace, and the only person shocked Karen was regular people, not afraid of her anymore. Because the girl she slammed into a wall was the police chief's daughter, and justice had arrived right on time when the officers led Karen out of the building, her screams echoing down the hallway. It felt like the entire apartment complex finally exhaled. People who had been hiding behind half-open doors stepped into the hall, looking around as if the world had changed in a single night. In a way, it had. I guided my daughter inside our apartment. She was still trembling, clutching her little backpack to her chest like a shield. I lifted her gently and placed her on the couch, where she curled up instantly, knees to her chest, eyes full of leftover fear. My wife sat beside her and wrapped her in a warm blanket. Honey, breathe, she whispered softly, running fingers through her hair. You're safe now. My daughter wiped her cheeks with her sleeve. Her voice was barely a whisper. Daddy, why did she push me? I wasn't doing anything wrong. I sat across from her on the coffee table so my eyes were level with hers. My heart broke seeing how small she looked, small but brave. Because she forgot how to be a decent person, I said gently. Because she thought her rules mattered more than people. My daughter sniffed. She was yelling. She grabbed my backpack, and then she pushed me so hard, my head hit the wall. Her voice cracked, and she stopped talking. My wife hugged her tight, pressing her cheek against our daughter's hair. You didn't deserve that, she murmured. No child deserves that. My daughter curled into her arms and whispered, I thought I did something bad. I felt my chest tighten. No, I said firmly. You did nothing wrong, not one thing. My daughter finally nodded, but her eyes still shined with leftover fear. Outside our door, voices floated through the hallway, neighbors talking softly but with a confidence none of them had before. She finally got arrested. After all the trouble she caused, she won't hurt anyone else's kids. We should have spoken up sooner. Someone knocked gently on our open door. Mr. Patel stood with his wife, both looking apologetic and relieved at the same time. Chief, he said, we just wanted to check on your daughter. My daughter buried her face into my wife's shirt shyly, but she managed a little wave. She'll be okay, I said. Just shaken. Mrs. Patel sighed. We all saw Karen getting worse, but no one expected this. We're removing her from the HOA board. Another neighbor added from the hallway. She's never running anything again. My daughter peeked out from the blanket, her eyes soft but curious. She won't hurt anyone else? She whispered. I shook my head. No, she won't. Slowly, the neighbors dispersed, leaving behind an unusual quiet. Not the fearful quiet Karen used to create, but a peaceful one, a calm that felt like a new beginning. Later that evening, after everything had settled, I sat with my daughter in her bedroom. I read her favorite storybook, the one with dancing animals and silly rhymes. She leaned her head on my shoulder, finally starting to relax. Halfway through the story, she whispered, Daddy, you saved me. I closed the book gently and kissed the top of her head. No, I said softly, I didn't save you. I just made sure justice did its job. She looked up at me with tired eyes. But you came so fast, and you were so strong. I smiled and stroked her hair. I'll always come fast. I'll always protect you. That's what family does. She nodded, a small but real smile appearing for the first time since the incident. Daddy? Yeah? Karen? She didn't know you're the police chief. I let out a slow breath. No, I said. She didn't. Daughter's smile grew a tiny bit. She picked the wrong kid to be mean to. I hugged her tightly. She did. She really did. Outside, the hallway lights flickered back to normal. The building felt lighter, freer, as if the walls themselves were relieved. Upstairs, Karen's old apartment sat dark and empty. The HOA leadership had already decided she was gone for good. The neighbors were already planning to repaint the hallway, fix the damage she caused over the years, and start fresh without fear. My daughter curled into her blanket, finally drifting toward sleep. Her breathing grew slow, steady, peaceful. Watching over her, I felt a deep, quiet certainty settle inside me. Karen had tried to push my daughter around. She tried to control her, belittle her, hurt her. But she had forgotten one thing. When she slammed the wrong child into a wall, she learned the truth the hard way. The girl she attacked was the police chief's daughter. And no HOA title in the world could protect her from that truth.